The constructor is a special method that is used to initialize the object. So blueprint, in the sense, it gives us the information regarding this person, and by using these information we can easily create an object. These access modifiers are none other than the simple keywords which is used to control the visibility. We do know that class will not occupy memory until and unless an object is created. Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the first session of Unit 2. Unit 2 is all about understanding the classes and objects. Over here, my name is Deepa Kutnikar. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Yes, in today's session, we will be starting with a new unit, that's Unit 2. And the agenda of today's session is we will be understanding the basics of classes as well as objects. Then we will see various examples with respect to classes and objects. Then we will be discussing like what is access modifiers as well as the types of access modifiers. Then we do also discuss method overloading. Then we have overloading constructors. Up next, we do discuss the static members of Java programming language. Then followed by this keyword, that is very special keyword, which is this keyword and what does it specifies, and all will be discussed in this session. So let's move forward and understand like what is an object. So let's start our discussion with understanding the basics of objects. Objects are nothing but a real world entities and it represents an instance of a class. Thus the characteristics of objects follows that it has a memory. The object occupies memory. It do have various states. It has its own identity as well as behaviors. Thus, the objects are created using the new keywords. Thus, we can say that object is something which is related to behavior of a class or an instance of a class. Okay, let's see various examples with respect to object. Here we have considered a student as a class, then followed by S1, which is considered as an object, and that object is been defined with a new keyword, that is new student. Then we are defining the individual behavior, that is what is student's name, his roll number. Then we do also can represent the student's marks he has scored in a previous class, etc. So in this way we can create a new object by keeping a instance or reference of a class. So which is the class over here? A student. So this is a class, and this what we have considered the S1, that forms a object, and the class is a student. So this is a small example that we can consider to represent a object. Over here we can see multiple objects that are placed. So in this way, we can also utilize multiple objects within the Java programming. Up next, let's go in depth and understand like what is a class and all about the class. So we have a simple example over here where we have considered a small example in order to understand the basics of class. Okay, so let's understand the example, then let's go with a definition so that it will be helpful to understand each and everything in a very good way. So this was the example, and here we are considering a person has a class. For this person, absolutely there will be various behavior. So that behavior we have listed out, like what is a person name, his age, then the gender, followed by the occupation, what is his occupation. Also, if we go in depth, then we can go in depth with the behavior too, like does he walks, or what is the thing that is he eat, the sleep time of this person, then followed by the work timings or the workplace position, and everything can be represented under this. So now we see that the attribute what we have considered are these much. Those are the basic information. Up next, the thing that is the functionality what we have considered is in-depth behavior of this person, like what does he likes to eat, when does he sleeps, and what is his occupation all about, what is his workplace, his domain, and everything can be noted in depth. So now what we can say that class, a person, he has many behavior, correct? So this behavior can be considered as a blueprint to form an object, isn't it? So blueprint in the sense it gives us the information regarding this person, and by using these information we can easily create an object. Okay, so that's the main thing that I wanted to explain to you, that the main difference between the class and the object is object comes has a behavior or an instance of a class, but a class is nothing but a blueprint or a template for creating a object. So that's the main difference between the class, and this class will give a blueprint, and depending on this blueprint we will be creating the object, and that's nothing but a class and the object. So let's move forward and understand the definition of a class now. As we know, class is a blueprint or a template which is utilized for creating object, but in addition to this we have to also understand that a class is a user defined data type. So the main thing, a class is a user defined data type that can be considered as a template or a blueprint in order to form an object. For example, okay, let me take one more example for this. If I consider an example of a new car or a motorbike, whatever it may be, then my motorbike will become a class, and with respect to that motorbike, the specifications of that, like which is the make, which is the model, and the color, what is the chassis number, all these things will become a instance of class, correct? So that instance of class are utilized in order to form the object. So we can say that a car behavior, like the make, the model, number of glasses, the chassis number, then the engine number, all the related information can be formed as an object. That's why we say that an object is a real world entity, and the class car, it gives the blueprint or a template to form various objects. So this is a small example that we can give. So we can give similar multiple examples. If we consider the studio, in this studio, what is the number of cameras that are installed, then what are the number of lights and the number of ACs, etc. In this way, we can consider the studio has our class, and the behavior or the components can be considered as a instance of class to create an object. So this is how we can define a class and the object, and the Java programming is completely dependent on this object as well as a class concept, because it is related to object-oriented programming. Now let's see what are the characteristics of class. It contains data members as well as the member functions, and the main thing is the class does not occupy any memory until an object is created, until and unless we have that confidence with respect to the behavior of that described class. Until that, the class will not consider any of the memory space. Then the main thing is it is used to define the properties as well as the behavior of the objects. Won't you think? Yes, correct, because it forms a blueprint or a template to create an object. So we can say that it or a class defines the properties or the behavior of a object. Let's say an example for a class. So we have defined a class with a name student, and the roll number is defined following the string name. Now we are going to declare the main method. So we have written void display followed by system.out.println. So as we have noticed that system.out.println is the syntax to print the object. So this we have already discussed in a simple program that we have defined in our unit 1. So now what has to be printed? The roll number with a name. And yes, we are done with our program. So we will be getting a output roll number following a name of that student. So this is how we can create a class with a various template which forms a blueprint for creation of an object. So with respect to student, we have created this roll number as well as the name, which is an object. So if I have a class, then I can create a object, and yes, once the object is created, then the class needs some memory. So this is the actual process that takes place for a class as well as the object. Now let's quickly see what's the difference between a class and object. Yes, we have understood this to a very good extent, but this gives us a exact concise information regarding a class as well as an object. With respect to class, we know that it is a blueprint of an object, and an object is an instance of a class. As we do know that class will not occupy memory until and unless an object is created. But once the object is created, then it needs memory. Initially, class doesn't need any memory, but object initially itself, it needs memory. Thus, we can say class has a logical entity and a object has a physical entity, because all the various physical properties or the behavior of the class is defined. Correct, right? So that's why we can consider this object has a physical entity. The class is created once, but with respect to object, we can have or go ahead and create multiple objects. Now the class student, so here we can observe the student is a class, and with respect to this, the example student S1. So out here S1 is a particular student and we are describing his behavior. Thus student S1. The main thing to note here is S1. So this is a brief concise note with respect to the object as well as a class. Up next, let's understand like what is a constructor. The constructor is a special method that is used to initialize the object. If I want to start working with an object, then I can go with defining a constructor. Let's see what are the various characteristics of constructors. The name what we give for the constructor, it should be same as that of the class name that is defined. And next character is the constructor doesn't have any of the return type values or any return type. The main thing to note here is the constructor is automatically called when an object is created. Why? Because the constructor is the thing which initializes the object. So if you want your object to start or initialize, then the constructor will be automatically called within the loop. Let's see an example over here. So we have class student. The student is the class what we have considered, followed by int roll number and the string name, that is a name of a student which with a string data type. Now we are defining the in-depth behavior of an object, that is student of int r comma string n, followed by we have roll number which is been initialized with r and the name is been allocated with a value n. So this is how we can go forward and initialize the object by using a simple constructor. Yes, the next thing or the next topic is access modifiers. These access modifiers are none other than the simple keywords which is used to control the visibility as well as accessibility of a class, variable, methods as well as the constructors. So whenever we go ahead and create a class or a new variable, or we can say we are creating a new method as well as a constructor, at that time the visibility access is completely monitored by this access modifier. If you want to change, then you have to intimate the access modifier. Now let's see what is the advantage or the help which is provided by the access modifiers. Access modifiers helps in data hiding, it provides security, it also provides encapsulation as well as controlled access to class members. Just consider an example of any of website, and in that website, if you want to access various features of that website, then you have to pay for that website. Yes, for that you will be having various packages which includes few features. But let's say if you go ahead and purchase the basic standard feature, then for that you'll be having 4 to 5 number of features. But if you go for advanced, then the cost will also be more as well as the features will also be more. So in order to control the access of various advanced features, we can utilize this access modifiers. So in this way, the access will be controlled and monitored. Thus, they can provide the data security, and in the meanwhile, they can also hide the data. Now let's see what are the different types of access modifiers that are available in Java. Yes, initially a private one which provides the accessibility only within a same class. If an object is present in the same class at that time, the access can be provided and it is termed as a private access modifier. And the example we can consider, we have to define private and this is a keyword followed by which is the thing that has to be accessed. So it has to be mentioned. Next type of access modifier is a default, which is also called as no modifier. This is responsible to provide access with the package only. Like initially we will be defining the package if we want to start with any of a program, right? If and only if I want to access any of the information, yes, it is possible if that information is included in that package. Let's see an example for a default modifier. Here we can see that int y equals 20. We are not representing it or we are not utilizing any of the keyword because the name itself says no modifier. The next type of access modifier is a protected access modifiers. Here the accessibility is within the same package as well as it is extended to the access of subclasses of other packages. The example for this is protected. So we have to write this keyword followed by the value that has to be represented in order to access. So this is the third type, and the next type is a complete public, which is like access for the object from anywhere in the program. Like it is publicly available, you can access anything inside that program. So it is called as public access modifier. And the example, we can just go with public void followed by show of the remaining statements. So this is how we can go forward with various access modifiers, and in the meanwhile, these access modifiers will support our developer or a user to promote a good security for the objects as well as a classes. Let's move forward and understand what is method overloading all about. Method overloading, as the name itself says, like something overflow is going on. Yes, the overflow in the sense there will be a lot of parameters that takes place or represented inside a class. The definition of method overloading is, it means like having a multiple method with the same name but different parameter list, and the main thing to note here is inside the same class. So it is termed as method overloading. Let me repeat this, the definition of method overloading. Method overloading means having multiple methods with the same name but the parameters will vary according to the method, and that method as well as the parameter all will be included in a same class. So that is nothing but a method overloading. And the key points to note with respect to method overloading is the parameters must differ with respect to number, type as well as in order. 2. Written method type alone cannot be responsible for complete overloading or overloading a method, and this is achieved at a compile time basically. The next thing that we will discuss is overloading constructor. The basic constructor we have understood that, which is nothing but the constructor is a special method which is used to initialize a object, correct? So this is what the constructor we have studied. Now we have to step up and go forward with understanding constructor overloading or overloading constructors. Yes, it is also almost same as we did understood what overloading methods. So let's define this overloading constructor. It means like having multiple or more than one constructor in a class with different parameters. So that's nothing but a constructor overloading or overloading constructors. And the main purpose to go with overloading constructor is it is used to initialize the objects in various ways or in different ways. And this is the main purpose of this overloading constructor. Now let's move forward and understand the static members. So who are static members? Static members are those who belong to the class and not to an individual object. So we have static methods as well as static variables which goes with static members. So let's understand the static variables. The static variables in the sense it is shared by all the objects. It is shared by all objects. Then the static method is like it is or it can access only the static data directly. So this is nothing but a static method. Now let's understand a special keyword which is included, that is none other than this keyword. As we usually say this pen or this camera, in the same way we can use this keyword to represent a current object. Now let's understand what are the uses of this keyword. It is used to differentiate the instance variable from various parameters. It is also used to invoke the class methods. Also utilized to call the current class constructor. So these are the basic uses of this keyword. Now let's understand this by using a simple example. Here we have a class, that is this demo. This is a class name. We are initializing the integer x. Okay, done. Followed by we are writing a method, that is this demo of int x, which has a statement this dot x, which is assigned with a value of x, which refers to the current object. Okay, now let's start with a main method. So we have to go with public static void main, where we are defining string argument. The statement, next statement, we are writing this demo d, which will be initialized with a new value, that is new this demo of 5. Okay, this is done. Now I have to step ahead for printing that answer or the result. So that's why I am writing the statement system dot out dot print ln, that is d dot x. Thus this completes the loops. And now at the output, what is the new updated value? Yes, that is this 5. The new value which we have assigned, that is a value of 5. And at the output, we can see that after execution of this program, we will be resulting with an output of 5. So this was all about today's session. And in the next session, we will be discussing with respect to arrays. And this was all about today's session. Thank you.